What's up, guys? We're back with a full slate of MLB action here on Monday, May 6th. Not the day we really had lined up there for Sunday, guys. Sundays just continue to be tough for us. We got our first pick of the day right on the Colorado-Pittsburgh under 8.5, but other than that, it was very, very tough sledding. We saw a terrible performance from our biggest bet of the day in the San Diego Padres, and just nothing else really worked out for us. A pretty bad beat there in the under on the Seattle-Houston game. Just not a lot of positives to find on Sunday, and Sundays have just kind of been like that. We're going to go ahead and just try to wash that one out of our memories here. Time to bounce back and find some wins on a Monday slate with a couple of NBA playoff games thrown in. First, do me a big favor and hit that like button. It's a great way to show some support for the channel and all the work we put in here every single day. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe. It's 100% free and can keep you from missing out on these picks. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports. Comment below with all the bets you're looking at today, and we will give you our best advice on all of them. We respond to absolutely every single comment, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our final picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day, the San Francisco Giants versus the Philadelphia Phillies. The Giants and Phillies are actually playing right now. They're in the top of the 7th inning with the Phillies up 5-3, so kind of looking like a pretty decent spot for the Phillies in this one. The Giants haven't had a great time this season in general. They're only 15-19 on the year. They just had to put their catcher on the 7-day concussion IL, so he's still going to be out in the game before this game they're currently playing on Sunday night. They lost 14-3, and they're trying to avoid getting swept in this series, but it's not looking so great here on Sunday night. So maybe on Monday they're going to be in desperation mode. That's what it looks like to us for sure. The Giants starter is currently undecided right now, so we don't know who they're going to be putting up there on the mound, but we do have lines for this game already, so we're going to go ahead and break it down for you. The Giants pitching staff in general this year has not been amazing. I mean, they're 24th in the majors in earned run average. They're tied for 4th in the majors in terms of quality starts, but that bullpen just really hasn't really gotten it done, it doesn't feel like. I mean, they've got a 256 batting average against, which is 26th in the majors. Just not a great pitching staff that we have a ton of faith in here, and they've obviously had a very tough series so far overall, so going to be a tough look for them. And their offense, guys, has not been very good. The offense has not been able to carry the pitching staff when they need it. They're only 22nd in the majors in runs scored. It looks like they're about to have a game where they score, 3 runs, maybe more, but I don't know, guys. They only scored 3 runs in the first 2 games of the series in each game, so not an offense that's really hitting the cover off the ball. Like I said, 22nd in the majors in runs scored, 21st in the majors in team batting average. It's starting to look like this is just who the Giants are right now, and that's got to be pretty disappointing for a team that, like all teams, had high hopes coming into this season. They're taking the Phillies, who have to feel pretty great about how things are looking right now. They're 23-11 on the season, looking like they're going to be 24-11. Unfortunately, it does look like Trey Turner's going to be out around 6 weeks with his hamstring issue. Not great, obviously, but as a team, they've been looking pretty good in general, so I would think they could absorb, even a major loss like that and probably be okay. They're handing the ball in this game to Christopher Sanchez, who's 1-3 on the season with a 3.68 ERA, so not terrible, but maybe not in the top echelon of pitchers right now, although he's looked pretty good. His last start was not amazing. He gave up some runs. He gave up 4 runs on 7 hits to the Angels, so not a great start by any stretch, but before that, the start before that didn't look amazing in Cincinnati Reds. He gave up only a single earned run, but 5 runs overall in 3 innings. That's not going to work. His first 3 starts of the year were very, very good, though, so the guy's just been having to battle here a little bit recently, so we'll have to see what kind of effort he can come up with in this one. The Phillies offense, on the other hand, though, has looked very, very good. Obviously, they're going to miss Trey Turner. That's going to be a pretty big absence for sure, but we've seen Alec Baum. He's hitting the ball well. Kyle Schwarber's got 8 home runs. The batting average is not looking great, but he can still hit some bombs, so that's helped this team be in 4th place in the majors in runs scored, 6th in team batting average, 3rd in the majors in on-base percentage as a team. That will definitely work, and while I expect those numbers to take a hit with Trey Turner sidelined, I don't think it's quite the disaster that some people are acting like it is. Looking at the numbers for this game, the odds makers definitely agree that Trey Turner being out is not a huge deal. They also have a decent amount of faith here in Sanchez out on the mound and not a lot of faith in the Giants bullpen or whatever sort of starter situation they cobble together. We've got the Phillies at nearly 2-1 favorites. That's not amazing, obviously, but looking at the Giants at plus 166 does not get me going, especially with an undecided situation for their starting pitcher. So we're looking at the Phillies against the run line a little bit in this one, guys. If you take the Phillies minus 1.5, you can get them at plus 110. I think we can expect Sanchez to have a bounce back in this spot a decent amount. We are banking on the Phillies just finishing this thing off in another blowout, so that seems like a little bit of a stretch, but the Giants are only 15-19 against the run line this season, so that's not an amazing mark, obviously, and they're a team that's struggling right now, so go ahead and give me the Phillies minus 1.5. I think they find a way to win this game by at least 2 runs. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Detroit Tigers going on the road to take on the Cleveland Guardians. Detroit just finished off a series in New York. They got swept in 3 games by the Yankees, so not a great look in that one. Now they've got to head to Cleveland to start off this series against a very good Guardians team. They're handing the ball in this game to Jack Flaherty, who's 0-1 on the season with a 4.00 ERA, but he's coming off clearly his best start of the year against his former team, the St. Louis Cardinals. He gave only 2 hits and had 14 strikeouts and 1 walk over 6 2/3 innings. That is a dominant performance. Unfortunately, his team took the 2-1 loss, so not able to get a positive result there despite an amazing outing. And I mean, maybe he's rounding into form here, but he hasn't looked amazing this season in general. It's been his first start where he's given up less than 3 runs. He's been giving up a lot of runs this year. It's kind of surprising that his ERA looks as good as it does. Some of those runs have been unearned, but in general, Flaherty has not looked amazing to me this year, but as evidenced by his amazing start there against the Cardinals, he does have elite stuff. The Tigers hitters obviously did not have a great time against the Yankees. They lost 2-1, 5-3, and 5-2, so a grand total of 6 runs there over 3 games. Not great at all. This squad is in the bottom third of the league in all the major hitting statistics. Not surprising. We don't see anybody really off to a hot start for them. They've scored 131 runs this season, which is good for 20th in the majors. Just not the kind of numbers that fill us with optimism. They're 23rd with a 301 team on base percentage, so not a lot of positives out there for the Tigers right now. They're going to need to get something going here against the Guardians, who come into this game fresh off of back-to-back wins, but they got a little bit of bad news here. We see Kwan headed to the IL, so that's not a great look. He's been their best hitter this season for sure, so him not being out there, not a great deal, but they have won 2 in a row. They won their series against the Angels, and now they get to stay at home and take on the Detroit Tigers. The Guardians are handing the ball in this one to Tristan McKenzie, who's 2-2 on the season with a 4.34 ERA, and he's coming off a good start against the Houston Astros, guys. We've also seen the Guardians do very well in games that he started this season. They're 4-1 in games that he took to the mound in this season, so can't feel bad about that, and definitely can't feel bad about his last start. He gave up 2 earned runs in 7 innings. Start before that, he gave up 2 earned runs in only 4 innings, so not quite as good. But the start before that, 5 innings against the Oakland A's, 3 hits, 1 run, not bad. So he's definitely looked serviceable here lately, and we feel pretty good about his chances out there on the mound. The Guardians offense definitely going to take a hit here with Kwan being out. We'll see how long. I mean, it's another hamstring injury, so suddenly a rash of hamstring injuries just hitting guys in the majors right now. It's kind of weird, but we see the Cleveland Guardians are 6th in the majors in terms of runs scored. They're 11th in the majors in on-base percentage, 12th in team batting average. And while I expect those numbers, like I said, to take a hit with Kwan out, I don't think it's going to be some sort of unmitigated disaster. Clearly doesn't help, but I think they'll be all right. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Tigers are plus 105. The Cleveland Guardians are minus 116. Detroit had been a pretty decent looking, I mean, you could almost call it a solid trend in terms of being good on the road before they got swept in that series to the Yankees. Cleveland is a very good home team. They're 10-5 at home this season. So looking at the Guardians minus 116, guys, I think they've got a very good chance to be in our pinned comment picks. I like them in this spot a decent amount for sure. In terms of the over-under in this game, I'm not super enticed. It's an over-under of 7.5, so pretty low number in general. We see Cleveland slightly an over team. We see Detroit is basically a 500 over-under team. So we're not going to be on that over-under, but we are going to be in the Guardians minus 116. Next up, guys, we got the Los Angeles Angels going on the road to take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Angels just lost 2 out of 3 to the Cleveland Guardians, and now they're having to go on the road for another series playing in Pittsburgh. So going from Cleveland to Pittsburgh, not that crazy of a trip necessarily, but the Angels not feeling great right now. They're 12-22 on the season. They're handing the ball in this one to Tyler Anderson. He's 2-3 with a 2.23 ERA, so he's been playing well. He's been pitching well despite his team not looking that great around him. His last time out against the Phillies, a very solid offensive team. He gave up 3 earned runs in 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. He did give up a home run in that game. He's actually given up at least 1 home run in his last 4 starts, but in general, he's been putting up very good numbers, putting his team in a position to at least have a chance to win. They are just not a good team right now. Looking at the numbers for the Angels hitters, not very impressive. They scored a grand total of 2 runs over their last 2 games, so not great. They did win 6-0 in game 1 of that series against Cleveland, so I guess take that for what it's worth. But without Mike Trout in there, this offense lacks a lot. There's not a whole lot to be excited about for this team on that side of the, there's not a lot to be excited about for this team at the plate. They're 18th in runs scored, 19th in on-base percentage, and these are all numbers that I expect to continue to drop here with Trout out for who knows how long, a long time, and with a team that really has no need to hustle him back. They're not going anywhere this season once again. I don't know why they'd even bother to hardly bring him back this season at all. Pirates, on the other hand, come into this game. They won their last 2 in a row. They won 2 out of 3 against the Colorado Rockies, so maybe they're feeling a little bit better. I mean, things have been very, very bleak for Pittsburgh here lately. They got off to that hot start and things just fell off of a cliff. They're hitting the ball in this one to Mitch Keller, who's 2-3 with a 5.18 ERA to start the season. His last time out, he looked decent but not great against the Oakland Athletics. 3 earned runs over 5 innings. He gave up a home run in that start, so not amazing. He's given up 1 home run in each of his last 4 starts, so that's maybe something to consider. We also see that the Pirates have lost his last 3 starts in a row, so that's not great. And yeah, I mean, against the Brewers in his start before last, he gave up 6 hits, 4 earned runs in 5 innings. Just not an elite pitching option. Maybe you could consider him a workhorse if you wanted to. He's, I mean, I don't know, guys. I don't have a lot of positive things to say about him. I also don't have a lot of positive things to say about the Pirates' bats, although they did come alive for 5 runs in Game 3 of this series, so maybe they're trending in a positive direction, but we'll have to see a little bit more than what we've seen so far. 121 runs scored has them in 24th in the majors, 16th in the majors in on-base percentage, just barely over 300. This is not a squad that has any really hot hitters on it right now. Just not excited about where they're at. Looking at the numbers for this game, we do see that the Pirates are decent favorites in this one. They're minus 129. I don't know, guys. That seems a little bit steep of a price to pay for a Pirates team that's been pretty bad. Obviously, the Angels have been bad too. They're plus 115 in this game. We're looking at an over-under of 8. We see the Angels are slightly an over team. We see the Pirates are a significant under team. They're 20-14-1 to the under, and the Angels aren't hitting the ball really well right now. So, guys, I tend to look towards the under in this game a little bit. Obviously, no faith here in Keller, but a good amount of faith here in Tyler Anderson against a not very good hitting Pirates team. So for what it's worth, I'm leaning towards the under, and maybe if you just are making me bet the side, you could take a flyer on the Angels, who are going to have the better starter, but I don't have a lot of positives to find in this game. I don't see a ton of value on it. Maybe give me a little taste of the under, but other than that, we're not too interested. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Milwaukee Brewers going on the road to take on the Kansas City Royals. The Brewers just finished off their 3-game series with the Cubs by losing their last 2 games in a row. They got shut out 5-0 somehow in Game 3 of that series, so very, very disappointed situation. We saw Assad absolutely shut them down. Freddie Peralta was not himself, so not great. Did not appreciate that one at all. The Brewers are 20-13 heading into this series. They're handing the ball in this one to Bryce Wilson, who comes into this game. He's going to be making his 4th start of the season, but his 6th, I think, appearance overall. His last time out, he was very good against the Tampa Bay Rays in a game we saw the Brewers lose 1-0. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, only a single earned run, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks, so definitely showed that he can go deeper into games and pitched very well. I think they have to feel great about that when you've got a guy that you're moving from the bullpen to being a starter, then he's able to go 6 innings and look that good. Definitely has to be a positive feeling. He hasn't figured in a result this year, so that's not something that's going to show up on his record, but we'll have to see how he looks in this one. Definitely comes into the game throwing the ball well. The Brewers' offense is definitely due for a bounce back after getting shut out. We are seeing them get a little bit banged up, but I don't think we're terribly concerned about that. I mean, this offense in general has been very, very good this season. They're 5th in the majors in runs scored, 5th in the majors in team batting average. They're 2nd in the majors overall, guys, with a team on-base percentage of .336. William Contreras is off to an amazing start. Like, this is a squad that we definitely expect to be able to put up some runs, but that was not the case yesterday in their day game against the Cubs. They just looked terrible out there, getting shut down by Javier Assad. So they're definitely in a bounce back spot, and they're going up against a pitcher that maybe isn't going to be the most comfortable in his starting role, although he looked good in his last one. They're going to need to figure out a way to do something here against the Royals, who come into this game fresh off back-to-back losses to the Texas Rangers. They lost 3-2 in their last game of that series, so not exactly what they were looking for. They are 20-15 on the season, so they probably feel pretty good about that. They're handing the ball in this game to Cole Rangans. He's 2-2 with a 3.44 ERA, and he looked good in his last start against the Toronto Blue Jays. He gave only a single run on 4 hits over 6 2/3 innings. He had 9 strikeouts and 3 walks. Did not give up a home run. He has yet to give up a home run this season, so that has to feel pretty good for the Royals in coming into this game. And just in general, Kansas City, they need their starters to pitch well. They're not an offensive powerhouse. This team is 12th in the majors in runs scored, so not terrible, but I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, their team batting average is down to .305, which is 22nd in the majors. They're leaning very heavily on Salvador Perez to like kind of carry them offensively, or at least that's what it feels like. I mean, you watch these games, he's their best hitter. Like, it's just not really a question at this point. Their team batting average is 15th in the majors, so they're strictly I would would say average offensive team. I don't think there's a whole lot of debate about that. Coming into this game, though, we're looking at the numbers. We've got the Brewers plus 126. The Royals are minus 139. That seems like a little bit steep of a price, but we are getting the Royals here at home, which feels pretty nice. They're 13-4 at home. The Brewers are 13-6 on the road, but we've seen them struggle here on the road a little bit, and they are going from Chicago to Kansas City, so not obviously a long flight or a long trip, but they did have to travel. And we see the Royals, they're just staying at home from their series against the Texans, so maybe the home cooking continues to work out for the Royals. We're going to be on Kansas City minus 139. I feel pretty good about that one. Looking at the over-under, it's sitting at 8. We see the Royals are a big under team. They're 22-11-2 to the under. The Milwaukee Brewers not hitting the ball great right now, so if you wanted to give a little look at that under, it wouldn't bother me at all, but we're going to be on the Royals to win this game straight up. Next up, guys, we're looking at the San Diego Padres going on the road to take on the Chicago Cubs. The Padres come into this game fresh off of just a terrible performance for me, guys. That was my biggest bet of the day there on the Padres against the Diamondbacks in their last game of that series, and we saw the Padres lose 11-4 somehow. Not great at all. They just had to put Musgrove on the IL for his elbow, so that's also not good news. They're 18-19 on the season, but they had to feel great about being able to hand the ball in this one to Yu Darvish. He's coming off of a little IL stint there. He missed about a month. His last start was against the Cincinnati Reds, and he looked good in that one. 3 hits over 5 innings, and yeah, it was kind of his best start of the year maybe, but this is a guy, as long as he's actually healthy here, which all reports are saying that he is, who we expect to be a lights-out starter. He is 1-1 on the season with a 3.45 ERA, so obviously not a massive sample size, and he just missed some time, so we'll see what he actually does out there, but I think we can feel pretty confident with him on the mound. The Padres' offense in general has been very, very good this season, but didn't look amazing there in Game 3 of that series. They might have just kind of thrown in the towel, though, getting down so bad, but they did win Game 2 of this series 13-1, Game 1 7-1, so this is a team that can definitely put up some runs. We've seen Fernando Tatis get off to a decent start. This squad overall 2nd in the majors in terms of runs scored, 7th in the majors in on base percentage, 4th in the majors in batting average, 5th in the majors in slugging percentage. This is just a team that you can expect to score some runs. They're going to hit the ball hard. We'll have to see how they fare here against the Chicago Cubs, who come into this game fresh off of winning 2 out of 3 against the Milwaukee Brewers. That had to feel pretty good. They're 21-14 on the season. They're battling it out with the Brewers there for the top spot in the NL Central. So that's going to be an interesting race here to watch as the season develops. They're handing the ball in this game to Justin Steele. He's going to be making his 2nd start of the season. His first start was all the way back in March 28th, so not very recent. He got through a bullpen session there on Saturday, looked totally fine, so we expect to see him out there. And I mean, he looked decent in his first start of the year, guys. He went 4 2/3 against the Texas Rangers, gave up a single run on 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, so not a bad outing at all, albeit a short one. He got through that bullpen session and apparently looked good enough that they decided to put him out there. We'll see what he can do in this one going up against the hard-hitting Padres. The Cubs in general have been hitting the ball well. They've scored 11 runs over their last 2 games combined. They had a 5-0 shutout in their last game against the Brewers, and they did not have to travel for this series. They just stayed in Chicago, so all things point to the Cubs offense being in a good spot for this one. They're 8th in the majors in runs scored, 13th in the majors in on-base percentage, so I think this is a team that we can definitely expect to score some runs. Look at the numbers for this game. We see that the odds makers kind of agree with us. They've got the Cubs minus 115, so they've got some faith here in Justin Steele, maybe not as much faith in Yu Darvish, which is a little bit surprising to me. Getting the Padres plus 108 with Yu Darvish on the mound feels like a pretty decent spot to us. I mean, the Cubs are very good at home, though, guys. They're 12-4 at home. The Padres are only 9-7 on the road. Not a spot that we have a massive amount of confidence in, but with 2 pitchers, both coming off the IL, we're going to lean toward the one that's been amazing over the course of his career. Go ahead and give me Yu Darvish plus 108 in this one. I think the Padres have a good chance to bounce back from a tough outing in their last game of this series against the Diamondbacks, and despite having traveled and everything like that, I think they'll be okay here going up against the Chicago Cubs. I don't have a ton of faith here in Justin Steele. I'm expecting the Padres hitters to have a pretty good time. Looking at the over-under in this game, though, it's at 7, so a very low number. The odds makers expecting no hitters to have a good time. We see San Diego's a slight over team. We see the Cubs are a slight under team. With a number this low, not really a spot that I have a ton of interest in, as we can't really super guarantee that either starter is going to have a great day or even go deep into the game since they're coming off the IL. So this is a game in general we're going to stay away from. If you're making me bet it, I'll take the Padres plus 108, but I'm going to stay away, I think. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Seattle Mariners going on the road to take on the Minnesota Twins. The Mariners come into this game fresh off of winning their 2 out of 3 against the Houston Astros. Now they're having to travel from Houston to Minnesota. Kind of a long flight. Probably doesn't feel super good. They managed to edge out that 5-4 win in the last game of that series series against Houston, so that feels good for them. I'm sure they're 19-15 on the season, handing the ball in this one to Luis Castillo. He's off to a 3-4 start with a 3.46 ERA, and he comes into this one fresh off of one of his best starts of the season. He shut down the Atlanta Braves, 3 hits over 7 innings, no runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. So definitely a very good performance, and he's looked good in general this season for sure. First start of the year didn't look amazing, but other than that, he has been absolutely dealing out there. The Mariners have to feel very good about him and their starting pitching in general this season. Their bats, on the other hand, have been another matter, but they've scored 10 runs over their last 2 games. They've scored 13 runs in their 3-game series against the Astros, and for this light-hitting Mariners team, that is definitely good work. I mean, they're 19-15, guys. They're sitting in the top spot in the AL West, and they have the starting pitching to stay there. It doesn't matter that they're 28th in the majors in runs scored. I don't think they're too scared, but they might be a little bit tired having traveled like that. They're going to need to stay awake here going up against the Minnesota Twins, who are staying at home after their series against the Boston Red Sox. Their crazy winning streak finally got snapped. They won 12 in a row before finally losing 9-2 in their last game of that series against the Red Sox. But at 19-14, they probably don't feel too bad. They needed that winning streak to kind of keep themselves going. They're handing the ball in this one to Simeon Woods Richardson, who's off to a 1-0 start with a 2.45 ERA, and he comes into this one fresh off a dominant start, another dominant start against the Chicago White Sox. No, I take that back. Not dominant. 7 hits over 3 2/3 innings is not dominant, but he only gave up a single earned run. He gave up 2 runs overall. And when you're going against the White Sox, that's not exactly a fantastic start, guys. I mean, they're the worst hitting team in the majors, and it's not particularly close, it doesn't feel like. So we're going to wait and see here on how good Woods Richardson actually is. Does he deserve all those letters on the back of his shirt or not? Jury's still kind of out. The Twins' offense in general, though, has definitely trended in a positive direction, although getting to play a ton of games against the White Sox and the Angels doesn't really hurt at all. They're up to middle of the pack in the majors with 151 runs scored, 12th in the majors in on-base percentage, so that's all pretty good, but I don't think this is really a team that we expect to be a powerhouse hitting the ball, guys. I mean, I just don't think they have the pieces for that. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond to that winning streak finally having gotten snapped. I mean, I'm sure something like that gives you a ton of energy and a ton of focus out there on a nightly basis, but looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Mariners are minus 120, the Twins are plus 107. I mean, I don't know. The Mariners definitely have the better starter out there. The question is going to be what their fatigue level is like having to travel like this. And they're going from probably a warm situation in Houston. I'm not sure what the weather was in Houston yesterday, but all the way up to Minnesota, where I could assume that it's not going to be the warmest. So things are going to be maybe a little bit tough here for the Mariners, who are minus 120. We see the Twins are plus 107. How much faith do we have here in Simeon Woods Richardson? I mean, I don't know, guys. This is a tough spot, especially with the travel involved. Looking at the numbers, looking at the over-under for this one, we see it's 8 or 7.5. You can definitely still find some 8s out there, and you can always take the under in a Seattle game as a system play. I know the over hit in their last game, but they are 24, 8, and 2 to the under, an MLB best to the under number this season, and Minnesota's bats are due to cool off a little bit, and you've got Castillo out there on the mound who's been great. So guys, probably give me the under in this one or the Seattle Mariners. It seems a little sketch given the travel and stuff like that, but I think under 8 is definitely a reasonable play, especially when you look at the Seattle Mariners numbers towards the under this season. Next up, guys, we've got the New York Mets going on the road to take on the St. Louis Cardinals. The Mets lost 3 in a row. They lost all 3, got swept by the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa Bay, so they're down to 16-18 on the season. They're hoping Sean Manaea can turn things around for them. He's 1-1 with a 3.07 ERA this season. He's coming off a very good start against the Chicago Cubs. Only a single run over 5 innings, 4 walks, so not amazing there, but 3 strikeouts. So he's shown some control issues. He's walked at least 3 batters in his last 4 starts overall. He's faced some good offenses, don't get me wrong. He had a good start against the Dodgers. I mean, obviously, the San Francisco Giants, not a good offense, but the Cubs, I think, qualify as a good offense. And in general, we can feel pretty decent about how Manaea has looked. The Mets offense, though, I mean, it feels like they've been getting a little bit let down by their pitching. I mean, they scored 6, 1, and 8 runs in their series against the Rays, so you definitely expect to win one of those games at least, and that is not what happened. They're 17th in the majors in runs scored, 14th in the majors in on-base percentage. So, yeah, things aren't looking amazing for the Mets. Starling Marte, I guess, is off to a decent start, but he's only batting .274 at this point. This is pretty tough, guys. I'm not really sure what the Mets' plan is. I don't know what they're going to be doing going forward. 16-18 on the year can't feel too good. They're hoping they can right the ship here against the St. Louis Cardinals, who are looking like Maybe a dumpster fire would be the right term. They just lost 5-1 in game 3 of their series against the Chicago White Sox. They lost 2 of 3 to the White Sox, guys. That's after losing 2 of 3 to the Detroit Tigers. This is not a good team. They're 15-19 on the year. They're handing the ball to Miles Mikolas, who has been pitching, I guess, kind of okay. He got up to a very tough start to his season his last time out against the Tigers. He gave up 6 hits and 3 earned runs over 6 innings of work, so I guess not a disaster, but with the Cardinals' offense being so bad, you're going to have to be better than that. This wasn't a team that was supposed to be so bad offensively, but that's just where they're at right now. They're 29th in the majors in runs scored, 25th in the majors with an on-base percentage of under 300. This is not a team that you can trust to score any runs right now. They're just not looking good. The veterans aren't hitting good. The new guys aren't hitting good. Just nobody's hitting the ball right now. Things are looking very, very tough for the Cardinals, and the odds makers, they don't really agree. They've got the Mets at plus 110. The Cardinals are minus 121. So both of those numbers, I mean, one of those looks better to me than the other one, guys. I mean, the Cardinals didn't have to travel after their series against the White Sox. The Mets did have to travel from Tampa Bay to St. Louis, so that's not a super long flight, but definitely travel involved there, and they're going from a warm climate to a pretty rainy, kind of cooler climate going on right now in the middle of the country. So guys, this is another tough spot. I'm not finding a crazy amount of value here on the side. I like the Mets plus 110 more than I like the Cardinals. I don't have a ton of faith here in Mikolas, but I also don't have a ton of faith in the Mets bats to put up some runs. So I'm not sure which way I'm going to be leaning in this one. If you look at the over-under for this game, it's at 8. We see the Cardinals are a fantastic under team this season. They're 21-11-2 to the under, very good at not scoring runs and pretty good at getting involved in low-scoring games. The Mets are 17-17 over-under this season, so nothing to be gleaned from that, but their bats have looked a little bit better lately, so that makes me a little bit scared of the under. In general, guys, I guess giving the Mets plus 110 in this game, but I'm not going to be betting it myself. Moving right along here, guys, we got the Texas Rangers going on the road to take on the Oakland A's. The Rangers come into this game, they won 2 out of 3 against the Kansas City Royals. They have to feel pretty good about that. Obviously, Langford going down with a hamstring, headed to the IL, probably doesn't feel very good. Winning 2 out of 3 against the Royals and 3 of their last 4 overall. They're up to 19-16 on the season, and they're right there battling it out with the Mariners for the top spot in the AL West. So things not looking like a disaster right now. They're handing the ball in this game to Andrew Heaney, who is kind of looking like a disaster. I mean, I don't know. He's off to an 0-4 start with a 5.10 ERA, but he's coming off a very good start against the Nationals in a game that his team lost 1-0. So that can't feel great. It probably feels pretty bad, guys, that the Rangers are 0-5 in games that he started the season. And while he hasn't been necessarily lights out, he's been good enough to deserve some wins, especially in that last game against the Nationals. 4 hits, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. That is not bad pitching whatsoever. The Rangers' bats obviously haven't been looking amazing in his starts, but in general, they've been warming up. They scored 15 runs in game 2 of the series against the Royals, then 3 in the last game of the series to help him get that win. Things are definitely pointed in the right direction for this offense. They're 10th in the majors in runs scored, 9th in the majors in on-base percentage, and they're 7th in the majors, guys, in team batting average. This is a team that can definitely hit the ball a little bit, and we kind of expect them to find a way to hit the ball here in this matchup. They're going up against the Oakland A's, who are 17-18 on the season. They just got destroyed by the Marlins in the last game of that series. They scored 20 runs in game 2 to win 20-4, and then 3 runs in game 3 to lose 12-3. Not really one that we saw coming. They're handing the ball in this one to Alex Wood. He's off to a 1-2 start with a 6.32 ERA, so hasn't had the greatest time this season, but things are trending in a positive direction. His last time out against the Pirates, 2 earned runs over 4 innings, not amazing. 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, but in his start before that, he gave up only a single run to the Yankees, but he did give up 8 hits in that game, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do out there. This is not a guy that we have very much faith in, though, right now. I mean, the A's have been playing better than projected. There's no way around that. That's just for sure a fact, but in general, their bats haven't been incredible this year. I mean, they did just go on this winning streak, but it seems like they're about to head back down. I mean, they're a team that's 28th in the majors in on-base percentage. You can't overcome that for very long. At least that's not what it feels like to me. And it's not like they've been playing the best teams. I mean, they played a series against the Pirates, who are slumping hard, and then the Miami Marlins. So looking at the numbers for this game, we see the A's are plus 120 at home. We see the Rangers are minus 130. They did just have to go from Kansas City to Oakland, so that's a little bit of a flight, but I don't think that's too crazy, guys. Looking at the Rangers minus 130 seems like a pretty good spot to us. They are 9-7 on the road, so they haven't been a bad road team. I think they definitely have the better starter out there and somebody that's really freaking due to get some run support, guys. Give me the Rangers minus 130 in this one. The over-under sitting at 8. I don't have a lot of interest in that, even though Texas is a good under team. I don't really know what to expect here from the A's starter, so give me the Rangers minus 130 in this one. Next up on the docket, guys, we're looking at the Miami Marlins going on the road to take on the LA Dodgers. The Marlins come into this game fresh off of a win to salvage one win in their 3-game series against the Oakland A's. They're 10-26 on the season, so that can't feel too good. Right now, it's looking like their starting pitcher is undecided. They don't know who they're going to throw out there on the mound, but looking at the numbers for their team pitching in general is not a super pretty situation. I mean, they've only had 7 quality starts this season. They're giving up an opposing batting average of 28th in the league of 263 batting average against them. Their team earned run average is 29th in the majors at 5.18. Like, this is just not a good team overall on the mound, and we're not too surprised about that. So it'll be interesting to see who they throw out there. Obviously, it seems like it'll be a bullpen guy, and it's going to be like kind of a mash it together and find a way to get through this game, but that's not really a position you want to be in going up against the LA Dodgers. Even if the Marlins bats have come alive here a little bit, they did score 12 runs there in their last game of the series against the A's, but we're not going to overreact to that, guys. This is a team that is just not good hitting the ball. They're 29th in majors in on-base percentage, 23rd in runs scored, so maybe that's trending in a positive direction for them for now, but I don't think that will continue. 27th in slugging percentage, just not a good offensive team. They're going up against the best offensive team in the majors in the Dodgers right now. The Dodgers are 23-13 on the season. They just swept the Atlanta Braves, and they're handing the ball in this one to Walker Buehler, who's got to be pretty stoked to get out there on the mound. He's not going up against a great opponent, so great way to ease into the year. I mean, his stats from 2022 were very, very good, and yeah, just got to be pumped to be back out there. It's been a long, long time, and it's good to see him healthy and back out there on the mound. Looking at the Dodgers offense, it's got to feel pretty good for Buehler to have them behind him. I mean, they are just killing the ball right now. We see Ohtani has overtaken Mookie Betts for the lead in team batting average. He's batting .364 on the season. Mookie Betts is batting .352. Ohtani's got 10 home runs this year. This team scored the most runs in the majors. They've got the highest batting average in the majors. They've got the highest on base percentage in the majors and the highest slugging percentage. This is just a bonkers offensive team, guys. So looking at the numbers for this one, you're not going to be shocked to see the Dodgers as massive favorites, the Marlins as massive underdogs, but in this one, we're most excited about the Dodgers -1.5. You take them -1.5, you can get them at -120. The Marlins are 11-25 against the run line this season. That is an MLB worst number. Guys, give me the Dodgers -1.5. There's a decent chance this ends up as our biggest bet of the day. I'm not 100% sure if it will be, but this is definitely a pick that I have a ton of confidence in. The over-under isn't something I'm super interested in. We see both teams showing trends to the over. It's at 8.5, but I think there's a decent chance the Marlins maybe don't score any runs, but I think there's a decent chance also that the Dodgers could score 9 runs all on their own. So if you want to take the over, that's fine with me, but we're going to be on the Dodgers -1.5. Changing gears here real quick, guys, we're going to go over the 2 NBA playoff games for the night. First up, we're looking at the Indiana Pacers going on the road to take on the New York Knicks in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. The Pacers, they only needed 6 games to take care of the Milwaukee Bucks, but 6 games is honestly a little bit embarrassing given that the Bucks didn't have Giannis or Dame for most of that series. So yeah, I mean, the Pacers finished things off in style in Game 6, winning 120-98, so they took care of business for sure, but we've seen Halliburton be super up and down here at the end of the season and in the playoffs, and yeah, I mean, while the Pacers are a very exciting to watch, high-paced offensive team, their defense is a big concern. I mean, their rebounding looked better for sure in this series, maybe a little bit better than I would have expected, and they definitely have guys that can come off the bench and produce, put up some points, play solid defense, stuff like that. TJ McConnell's a great energy guy coming off the bench. Obi Toppin is another very good high-flying energy guy. He's shooting the ball a little bit better this season, but if you're seeing a bunch of Obi Toppin threes, you're probably not super pumped out about that. We need to see, I don't know, guys. I just feel like we need to see more out of Halliburton here in the playoffs. Obviously, he's going to be the focal point for opposing teams' defenses, but Siakam has really been the motor behind, or at least the scoring behind this team having success. We've also seen big games from Miles Turner, although he didn't look amazing there in the last game of the series, but he didn't have to, so maybe we're not going to knock him too much for that. We do see the Pacers come into this game. They're looking pretty healthy overall. I mean, we see Halliburton does come up on the injury report. They're putting him on there with his back spasms, his continued back spasms, which is obviously a concern. Like, if he's going through severe back spasms at game time, like, that's a nightmare, but I think they'll find a way to have him like pretty much rested and ready to go for this one. Looking at the Knicks in this game, they had a very tough series against the Philadelphia 76ers, and man, you would think this team would probably be getting worn out at some point with all their starters playing such insane minutes and nobody really coming off the bench. They won it in 6 games, so give them credit. They also finished things off in Philly, so that had to feel pretty good. Jalen Brunson is looking like a monster up and down the roster. This team is just looking very, very good. Josh Hart is shooting the ball really well here in the playoffs, which has to feel good. No problems there on the injury report. We're expecting Mitchell Robinson to be ready to go in this game. He, I think, matches up fairly well with Miles Turner in this one, so I mean, regardless, though, I think Hartenstein will be not too bad in those matchups, although his speed out there on the court could be a little bit of a problem, but he's not a super slow guy for a big, so I don't think that's a massive, massive concern. I mean, looking at their numbers from their last game of the series against the 76ers, we saw Anunoby, who's been insane. He's been really, really good, but man, the minutes that these guys are piling up is absolutely crazy. We hope we'll see more of McBride here in this series. He wasn't shooting great in the last game of the series against the 76ers, so he only played 9 minutes, but man, we're seeing only 27 total minutes played by the bench. I know it's a playoff game, but like, my God, Tibbs will run his guys into the ground. Jalen Brunson, though, he's the truth. DiVincenzo is playing great right now. Anunoby's playing amazing. Hartenstein's been really, really good when he's out there, so overall, very happy with how the Knicks look. Coming into this game, we're looking at the Pacers. They're 22, 20, and 1 against the spread on the road. We see the Knicks are 6.5-point favorites in this game, and they are 22, 21, and 1 against the spread at home, so not a ton to glean from that. The over-under in this game is a little bit interesting. It's 216.5, which seems like a lot of points for a Knicks team that's not really going to be putting up a ton of points. Just in general, though, I mean, I guess there's some reason to think they could, but man, that's a lot more points that we're going to be scoring per game in their series against the 76ers. That's for sure. Obviously, completely different situation, completely different opponent, but we'll just have to see. In the regular season series, we saw the Pacers win 2 out of 3, but those games were way back in December and February, so we're not too concerned about what we're going to see. Like those are not relevant anymore. So looking at this, who to pick in this game, I guess I'll take the Knicks minus 6.5, but that seems like a lot of points for them to cover. I just don't think we'll see the Pacers play well in what's going to be a crazy Madison Square Garden environment. Given that we don't think the Pacers are going to play well, I tend to think that the under has some value, but I don't think this is going to be a pinned comment play for me, guys. Next up, we're going to be looking at Game 2 of the series between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. They're playing Game 2 here in Denver, and we saw the Timberwolves come out and get the win there in Game 1, 106-99. Amazing performance there from Anthony Edwards. We saw the length and the size that the Timberwolves can put out there, and their amazing defense really seemed to bother the Nuggets. I mean, Jokic put up 32 points, don't get me wrong, but we saw Jamal Murray be really bothered. He went 6 of 14 from the field, just wasn't having a good time getting shots off in general. We did see Jokic have 7 turnovers in that game. The Nuggets shot 42% from three-point range and still managed to lose this game by 7. That's a pretty big concern. Looking at the Timberwolves bench, they were really, really good. That's looking to be a strength of theirs in this series. Naz Reid looked amazing there in the second half. We've seen Conley look really good at times, and I mean, the Timberwolves, man, maybe they've got the best player on the floor in this game. Is Anthony Edwards the best player on the floor in this series? Is he better than Jokic? Honestly, guys, this really feels like an NBA Finals matchup to me. I'm not going to lie. Like, these might be the 2 best teams in the NBA, and it might not even be that close now that the Celtics aren't going to have Porzingis for quite some time. We don't know when he'll really come back, and we also don't know how effective he'll be when he does come back. So looking at some numbers for this game, we see the Nuggets are 5.5-point favorites. We've got an over-under of 205.5. The Timberwolves have been a pretty decent against the spread team on the road this season. They're 25-19 against the spread on the road. Denver is 22, 22-1 against the spread at home. We see that the Denver is also a big, big under team this season. They're 52-36 to the under this year overall, so maybe that could make us lean towards the under. But guys, I think 5.5 points is too much. I don't see the Timberwolves as a team that's gonna be just taking this game off because they won Game 1. They've swept the Suns in the opening round series, and they looked so good in Game 2 of this one. If they can bother Jamal Murray like this, and if Jokic has to carry the whole offensive burden, and they're banking on Michael Porter Jr. hitting a ton of shots, that's not going to happen every night. So give me the Timberwolves plus 5.5 in this one. I think this is a pretty reasonable spot. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.